There are some things in life we can control,
Here's a little song I wrote.
others we cannot control. And, knowing the difference, and if your self-identity, if your worth as you see it or as others perceive it is wrapped up around your job or your income or your possessions, then you may be one of the millions of people that are having supreme challenges in this economy. And that's why we had to look within ourselves and find the inner definition and the spiritual aspects of things. Now, we're not bringing in a minister, but we are bringing in right now Scott Major, author of the best-selling book, You Are the Best, to talk about what is in you and to find your worth that way. Scott, welcome, and thank you for joining us today on Istook Live.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here.
This situation with the economy, it's technically, economists will say, well, it's technically not a recession. What was the Ronald Reagan quote? A recession is when your neighbor loses their job, and
Right.
a depression is when you live yours. Now, he added to that, and a recovery is when Jimmy Carter loses his. But here, if anyone thinks that an election is going to cure things, got news for you, no presidential election for almost 4 more years. So people need to be looking inside of themselves, and I know that's what you write about.
I do indeed, and I think that worry and fear and doubt are compelling and overwhelming and drowning feelings that if you don't get an understanding of how they affect you, they're going to infect you. And I think it's really important for people to understand some basic propositions. There's a famous expression I use, and that is worrying is like paying debt on a loan you may not owe. And the funny thing about it is that you really oftentimes worry or you have fears because you don't have knowledge. You don't know what might happen.
Right.
And if you can understand how to secure that information about what might happen or to predict that, you'll change your perspective tremendously.
Isn't that the truth? It is I also have my favorite quote about worry, too, and I'm a big worrier. Oh, my heavens, if there was one thing. I am trying to change it. I really am. But that worry is the misuse of imagination. Like, you can imagine something positive and something great happening to you. But when you misuse your imagination and you go to the negative, then that's where you start with the oh, my God, I'm never going to find a job. Oh, my God, I'm going to lose my house. Oh, my God, blah, 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 and you start spiraling out of control.
There's no question about it. I think people have to recognize that it comes from often an upbringing. In other words, in our childhood and as we grew up, there wasn't a lot of positive images. There were more negative. You were told what you shouldn't do rather than what you should do. It doesn't matter how productive your family environment was. We were not taught to compliment very well. And so what happens is that you doubt yourself constantly because you're always looking to create a judgment tool. When it comes to worry and fear, what happens is that you feel as though, if something happens, it might not happen good, instead of saying to yourself, what are the possibilities? I'm living in a good time, in a good place. I'm healthy. What can I do now to affect tomorrow? How can I do things now that will make me feel more positive about tomorrow? And what are the reasons why I worry? What is driving me? What fear do I have about that worry that is so overwhelming that it drains me emotionally? And I think when you understand that, you'll recognize that it is imagined. There's a famous Charles Schultz quote that says, don't worry about the world coming to an end today. It's already tomorrow in Australia. And it's a good way of just taking a perspective and sort of being light about this. I mean, We're all human. We all worry. We all have some fears and insecurities and things that drive our life, mostly because of the way we were just brought up in the culture in which we're brought up. And the reality is that we have the power to change that, and it comes with a positive outlook and sort of a lighter outlook on, I don't need to worry, because if I worry and it turns out I wasted my time, that's no good. And if I worry and it turns out I didn't waste my time, well, I still wasted my time. Because if something bad is going to happen and I really feel like it might happen, well, why don't I just take the steps to say, well, if that were to happen, what would be my response? And that gives me confidence. And
Let's try to make
that.
it concrete, if we can, Scott. Scott
Sure.
Major, author of You Are the Best. Someone that's having difficulties such as long-term unemployment. One thing they do have lots of is time, which to them can be a negative because they say, what will I do with this? They may spend their time worrying and so forth. Certainly, things that help you to become employed are a proper investment of the time. But what are some other ways in which people can apply this time that they have to help them overcome at least their feeling about their situation and their ability to surmount it because they overcome it?
Sure. The first thing you need to do is to stop and write down, what do you love to do? What are the things that make you happy in terms of employment? Do you like interacting with people? Do you like a desk job? Do you like typing? Do you like writing? Do you like speaking? Find out some of the core things that drive you and make you happy so that you can start to frame your employment search in a way that will be productive. The second thing is to identify, well, what are your goals now that you've accomplished an understanding of what you have? What are your goals? And to write down what your goals are. This way, when you start to dedicate your time, you're actually looking for things that you like rather than looking for a job that you have to have. And I think the perspective changes with people when they start to look for something they like rather than something they need.
Exactly. We are speaking with Scott Major. He is an attorney and the author of a book, You Are the Best. And I've just got to say, your title of your book makes me cringe. You are the best. I always go, oh, I'm not sure I believe that. That makes me uncomfortable. But is that because we are brought up, like you said, in that society where we're told what we're not supposed to be as opposed to what we are supposed to be? It's easier to believe a negative than believe a positive.
No doubt about it. And I'll tell you that it's just, our parents weren't trained and their parents weren't trained about the power of positivity. And so what happens is they only know what to tell you that, don't cross the road, don't wear this, don't do that. And so your model is built on an insecurity-based model. It's not that it's horrible or anything, but it creates this sort of paradigm for you where that's what you think and that's how you think. And you can change that by starting to recognize that, hey, I have control over my destiny. I have control over the way I feel. Eleanor Roosevelt has one of my favorite quotes. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent.
Absolutely. I love what you said about the power of positivity. I could hear those words over and over and over. It is so strong. It's like a muscle, right? In your mind is this muscle, and you can either use it or lose it. You have to like retrain yourself to think positively, to think like everything's going to be okay. It's all fine. I am in control. I have skills, instead of the worry. And you can't do both. You can't do the worry and the positive at the same time.
You're right. And I will tell you, a simple tool for everyone is to think about what you have, not what you don't.
Be grateful.
And if you think for a moment that way, it will change your paradigm immediately.
Being grateful.
What if some of the people around you, Scott, what if some of the people around you are basically saying, well, why aren't you out there working and you're not trying hard enough? What if you're surrounded by people that have a negative approach? And, of course, that just complicates things for you.
It is never a good situation for anyone who's listening to be around people who are negative. It is a overwhelming and compelling culture that is very difficult to break. So you have to challenge yourself to make sure that you surround yourself with people that are positive and motivating, because if not, they will drown you. I say to people all the time, if you put me with a bunch of druggies for enough time, I will do drugs.
Amen.
The reality is
Amen.
It is impossible to change that and to overcome that. So rather than try to fight it.
Yeah, Scott, our time is evaporated, I'm afraid. So thank you so much for joining us. Scott Major, author of You Are the Best.
I love him.
Yeah, great attitude. But, of course, that's a challenge for each of us. There's going to be a lot of attitudes expressed at the State of the Union address tonight. That's coming up next.
Dad, what's the American dream?